Somewhere over the Middle East, right now, something is moving through the sky that most radar systems simply cannot see. It has no sharp edges. It casts almost no shadow on enemy screens. And by the time anyone on the ground figures out it was ever there, the mission is already done. This is the B-2 Spirit stealth bomber. And in the last several weeks, it has done something that no other aircraft on the face of this earth could pull off. We need to talk about what just happened. Because this is not a drill. This is not a training exercise. This is the United States Air Force deploying the most expensive, most lethal, most technologically advanced bomber ever built, directly into one of the hottest conflict zones on the planet. And the world is still processing what that actually means. Let's start with the basics, because even if you've heard the name B-2 Spirit before, I don't think most people truly understand what this aircraft is. It costs $2.13 billion. Per plane. That is not a typo. A single B-2 Spirit costs more than the GDP of some small nations. And the United States Air Force operates 19 of them. Every single one parked at one base, Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, because that is the only installation on Earth with the climate-controlled hangars and specialized infrastructure capable of maintaining this aircraft's radar-absorbent coating. Let that sink in. You cannot just park this plane outside. The surface of the B-2 is so sensitive, so precisely engineered, that exposure to the wrong temperature or humidity can literally degrade its ability to stay invisible. Every maintenance cycle takes approximately 470 days. Which means at any given moment, a meaningful chunk of America's entire stealth bomber fleet is sitting in a maintenance bay, unavailable for combat. So when the United States decides to put multiple B-2s in the air simultaneously, that is not a casual decision. That is a statement. And what a statement it was. On March 1, 2026, U.S. Central Command confirmed that B-2 Spirit stealth bombers had participated in strikes against Iran as part of Operation Epic Fury. For B-2s, tracked by open-source aviation monitors under the call signs Petro 41, Petro 42, Petro 43, and Petro 44, flew non-stop from Whiteman Air Force Base all the way to Iran and back. That is a journey that takes roughly 36 hours of continuous flight. 2 pilots. 1 aircraft. 36 hours in the air. Think about that for a second. These were not symbolic passes. These were not warning shots. These bombers were armed with 2,000-pound precision munitions and they hit Iran's hardened ballistic missile facilities, the deeply buried, reinforced underground complexes that Iran had spent decades building specifically because they believed no conventional weapon could reach them. They were wrong. Satellite imagery collected after the strikes showed collapsed tunnel entrances at Iran's Tabriz North Missile Base. The cave systems, the ones Iran had been quietly filling with ballistic missiles aimed at U.S. bases and allied cities across the region, had their entrances caved in. Not damaged. Collapsed. Sealed. This is what the B-2 does. This is what it was built for. Now, let's talk about the numbers, because the capabilities of this aircraft are genuinely staggering once you lay them out. The B-2 has a wingspan of 172 feet. That's roughly the size of a Boeing 757. But despite being that large, its radar cross-section, the signal it reflects back to enemy radar, is approximately equivalent to a small bird. Some estimates put it at the size of a golf ball. The engineers at Northrop Grumman designed every surface, every angle, every seam of this aircraft to redirect radar energy away from the source rather than bouncing it back. It can carry over 40,000 pounds of munitions. On a single mission. It has a range of 6,000 nautical miles without refueling, and with aerial refueling, that range becomes essentially unlimited. It can take off from Missouri, fly to the Middle East, release its weapons with GPS precision accurate to within 3 feet, and fly home. Without anyone knowing it was ever there until the bombs start landing. This is why military analysts call it a ghost. But here's what I want you to really focus on, because this is the part that most coverage gets wrong. The deployment of B-2 bombers into this conflict was not just about Iran. It was a message. A message delivered simultaneously to every adversary watching from Beijing to Moscow to Pyongyang. The message was simple: we can reach you. Anywhere. Anytime. And you will not see us coming. Think about the psychological weight of that. The B-2 doesn't just destroy physical infrastructure. It destroys the confidence of enemy planners. Because no matter how deep you dig your bunkers, no matter how many layers of concrete you pour, no matter how sophisticated your air defense systems are, you cannot shoot down what you cannot find on radar. And that uncertainty, that inability to ever feel truly safe underground, that is a strategic weapon in itself. Now, this wasn't the first time the B-2 showed up over Iran. Back in June of 2025, 6 B-2s dropped 12 GBU-57 bunker-buster bombs on the Fordow fuel enrichment plant and the Natanz nuclear facility. Fordow, a facility built inside a mountain specifically to survive airstrikes, had its infrastructure targeted by the most powerful conventional bomb in the American arsenal. The GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator. A weapon that weighs 30,000 pounds and is designed to punch through 200 feet of reinforced concrete before detonating. The B-2 is the only aircraft in the world capable of carrying that bomb. So by March of 2026, when the bombers returned for Operation Epic Fury, Iran already knew what was coming. And they still had no way to stop it. That is the reality of American air power in 2026. And the B-2 Spirit sits at the absolute tip of that spear. Let me give you some context on the broader operation, because the B-2 didn't act alone. CENTCOM simultaneously deployed the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit to the region, 2,200 Marines aboard 3 U.S. Navy amphibious assault ships, including a squadron of F-35 fighter jets and MV-22 Osprey tiltrotor aircraft. The USS Tripoli, Japan-based, was among the vessels heading toward the theater. Meanwhile, the F-22 Raptor was establishing air superiority, clearing the skies of any threat to the strike packages. F-35s were hitting surface targets and radar installations. And above all of it, invisible and unopposed, the B-2 was going after the things buried so deep that nothing else could touch them. The coordination required to execute something like this is mind-bending. Tanker aircraft staging from the Azores. British bases authorized for U.S. use by Prime Minister Keir Starmer. RAF Typhoons flying defensive counter-air patrols from Qatar. Multiple nations' air forces operating in the same airspace simultaneously, and somehow, the $2 billion ghost stays out of everybody's way. After the mission, the 4 B-2s, Petro flight, couldn't return directly to Whiteman due to weather. They diverted to Dyess Air Force Base in Texas. People on the ground filmed them landing. Massive, dark, triangular silhouettes touching down on a Texas runway at the end of a mission that had taken them halfway around the world and back. That footage circulated across the internet within hours. And people stood there watching and filming, because even after everything, even knowing what these planes had just done, there is still something almost surreal about watching a B-2 Spirit land in front of you. It looks like something from the future. It is the future. It just also happens to be the present. The B-2 fleet is scheduled for retirement by 2032, when the next generation B-21 Raider takes over the stealth strategic bomber mission. The 509th Bomb Wing, the same unit that dropped atomic bombs on Japan in 1945, is already preparing for that transition. But right now, in the spring of 2026, with the Middle East reshaped by strikes that most of the world didn't see coming until they were already over, the B-2 Spirit is still flying. Still invisible. Still the most dangerous aircraft ever built. And somewhere over contested airspace right now, there may be one up there that nobody on the ground has any idea about. That's the whole point.